Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage A podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we have a multitude of things to discuss. The NFL schedule release came out yesterday, so we're going to talk about some of our takeaways from that. We're going to give our top five games of the 2025 schedule for each of us individually. We're going to recap the past week in the NBA playoffs, talk about I guess we'll update you on the second round series because we really haven't been able to talk about those much since the preview. So we'll talk about those. We have two of those series that are already done. But before we get into that, this past week we have our studs and duds. I'll start with my stud of the week. I have Dana White. I know he benefited pretty greatly from JDM beating Bilal on Saturday, but that card, first of all, that card was fantastic. The Aldo fight, Aldo got robbed, but that fight was fantastic. Valentina's fight was really, really good. And then JDM and Bilal was just an all-time classic fight. JDM, of course, wins the welterweight title at 170. So Islam moves up, vacates 155. He's going to fight JDM at 170 for that belt, giving us the fight that we all wanted outside of Ilya and Islam's next best get was Ilya and Charles, and we're gonna get that on that card 317, which is absolutely stacked. We have Kai Kara France versus Pantoja on that card. If Pantoja wins that, maybe we see Pantoja come up and fight Marab if Marab beats Suga next month. We'll see there. Manel Cape versus Brandon Royval is going to be a classic fight. I'm calling my shot now. Both those dudes are insane strikers. I love Manel Cape. I really, really hope he wins that fight. And then Paulikos is washed, but Kopylov is really, really good. And I think that fight could be very entertaining. We also get announced DDP versus Hamzat in Chicago. Very excited for that. Uh, and still is all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, for my stud of the week, I see the opportunity to do this. That might only be one chance I ever get to do this for stud of the week. I'm gonna go with the Chicago White Sox. They are 4-1 in their last five games. They've
Yeah,
won their last two series, but more importantly, they also were able to secure the fandom of the Pope. He's not a Cubs fan; he is a White Sox fan. So
huge.
it's been maybe the best week to be a White Sox fan in 2, 3 years. And on top of that, we also see the Rockies on pace, I believe, to break that worst record of
They
all
are.
time. And that's what we like to see. If that happens, getting that off our chest very quickly would be nice. But it's also nice to hold the record, I guess. But not a
I
record you want to have.
I said to you a couple weeks ago, I said they're on pace, and you're like, no, it can't be done. And they're on pace.
They're on
They're
pace.
really
I
bad.
still don't think they're on pace until they lose 30 in a row, though.
I agree, but I mean, how many wins did the White Sox have at this point? They had to have had more than seven, right?
I
I think the
believe it
Rockies are at
was like
seven.
I believe it was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, so I guess they're not that far behind, but still, like,
And they didn't have the 30 game losing streak yet at this
yeah.
point.
But
Or
I
it
mean,
wasn't
a
30, it was
couple
mid
15s
20s.
gets it done.
Yeah. And
So
they are just they're way worse, I believe, on the run differential as well.
they have to, yeah, they're getting blown out every night. They have to have had at least a 10-game losing streak at one point, right?
I'd say so. Yeah, they don't. I mean, last time I checked, they had like 7 wins.
Yeah,
So
that's unbelievably
unless you're
brutal.
winning like one in every six.
Yeah, which I guess is possible, but my dud of the week, unfortunately, I'm going with Jimmy Butler. He has not been able to perform as the number one star since Curry went out in game one. 17 points in game two, just 13 shots. He was good in game three, had 33 on 26 shots. And then games four and five, the last two games of the series, he takes 9 shots and 11 shots, puts up 14 points and 17 points in those two games. Jimmy Butler is supposed to be an alpha, and I know he took a step back as he should have when he joined this team because Curry is the alpha on this team and he needed to be a second option, and he was doing a good job of being that second option in his time when Curry was there. But then Curry goes away, and it's almost like he forgets that alpha inside of him, where he has to be the guy that takes 25 shots in a game, and he just didn't have it here. And in games where if Jimmy goes out there and plays prime playoff Jimmy Butler of the Heat days where he carried some teams to the finals and he goes and he gets 40 and 10 in a game, you could see them stealing a game from Minnesota and getting to the point where they can get Steph Curry back and he could fall back into that second option role, but he wasn't able to step up. And I'm not going to say he cost his team the series because Curry being out is what really lost them this series, but he had an opportunity to stop the bleeding a bit and he couldn't get it done.
Yeah, he was right there for me for a dud. Just a disappointing performance by that team all around without Curry. But for my dud of the week, I'm gonna go to the other conference. I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Cavaliers again. This is another year where they have a great regular season and they still can't even find a way to make it to the conference finals. 2 years ago, 51 and 31, losing the first round to the Knicks. Last year, 48 and 34, losing the second round to the Celtics, and now this year you win 64 games and you lose in the second round in 5 games to the Indiana Pacers. At some point, you need to have a little bit of playoff success, and we've yet to see that from this Cavaliers new core. They fired JB Bickerstaff. Kenny Atkinson has a great first season, but unable to get it done in the playoffs again. And we'll see if they can finally get some playoff success next year. And maybe it's just Donovan Mitchell, but he still is. He's played pretty decent in these playoffs.
They were really, really banged up in this series, though.
They were,
I
but I
mean,
mean, you still
Mitchell
got to
was
find a
hurt,
way.
Garland, Mobley, Hunter. You got to find a way. I agree. You can't lose in 5 games, but it was
They had all those guys
brutal.
in that last game, and the Pacers
Well, they
still
had no,
played.
they had them all for sure after the first 2 games, but they were all hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess it's the playoffs. Everyone's playing hurt, but sucks for the Cavs. I know somebody who's not going to be too happy about that.
yeah, me too.
But we can move on to the 2025 schedule release, our top 5 games on the 2025 schedule. I'll start with my number 5. I have the Lions at Chiefs, week 6, Sunday night football. Last time the Lions went to Arrowhead was week 1, 2 years ago. They went and they got a win. Brian Branch had a pick six in his first NFL game ever. Lions get to play the Chiefs here in week 6. Hopefully Hutchinson will have his legs a little bit under him at that point in the season, 5 games in. Lions play an absolute gauntlet to start the season. They go at Green Bay, Chicago at home, at Baltimore, then the Browns at home, and then at Cincinnati, at Kansas City for the first 6 games, and then back to Tampa at home. They also have to go into Washington and into Philly and into the Rams later on in the year. The Lions have an absolute brutal, brutal schedule, but this game should be phenomenal, and it's going to lead to probably a lot of really, really good games on the Lions schedule. But I have Lions at Chiefs at number 5.
Yeah, number 5, couple options. Um, I had liked the Rams at Seahawks week 16 because that could be a game late in the season that could have a lot of playoff implications. But I'm still not 100% sure that the Sam Darnold is the solution for the Seahawks. So for number 5, I'll go with the Black Friday game, Bears at Eagles. This could be a very good game too. Obviously, Caleb Williams and this young Bears offense, Eagles reigning Super Bowl champions. I think that could be a very good game, and it could be a game if the Bears are fighting in the playoffs to really prove that they are an elite team. So I got Bears at Eagles Black Friday as my number 5.
Okay, my number 4, I have Bengals at Ravens Thanksgiving night. This game is going to be absolutely stellar. We have a loaded Thanksgiving slate in general. Lions, Packers, Chiefs, Cowboys, and Bengals, Ravens is just 3 absolute juggernauts on Thanksgiving. Going to be very excited for those 3 games. But Bengals at Ravens are always great games. Last year, we had 2 of the best offensive games of the year when these two teams matched up. 2 teams that are going to run up the score. And I believe we see a game that could be in the 30s on Thanksgiving night, which those games aren't always the best on Thanksgiving night, especially coming off that Cowboys game, but I have high expectations for Bengals at Ravens. That's my number 4.
For number 4, I have a game early in the season, Dolphins at Bills on Thursday night football. Early in the season, the Dolphins tend to be a little bit better. They're not as banged up, and we know how the Dolphins are against the Bills. They just cannot beat Josh Allen. It doesn't happen, but they got lucky that this Bills game is week 3 in Buffalo, so the weather should still be decent. This is their chance to finally prove that they can beat Buffalo. But Josh Allen's going to try to continue to show that this is his division, and I think this could be a very high-scoring game and a very fun game on Thursday Night Football Week 3.
My number 3 is going to be the Super Bowl rematch, Eagles at Chiefs. Of course, we've seen it before many times. These teams have played in the past half decade. It's almost always a good game, except for the Super Bowl last year. Chiefs are going to be at home. They're obviously going to want revenge second week in the season. I know, of course, this game was not the opening game because the Chiefs were the home team. A little bit weird that they went with the Eagles Cowboys for week 1, the opener. I understand why they did it because it's Dallas and you want to get those ratings with Dallas. We saw them do it with Dallas and Tampa Bay not too long ago, but I feel like there were better options for the Eagles. You could have went with the Commanders at Eagles. You could have went with the Lions at Eagles. I think there were better options there, but Eagles at Chiefs, I think is going to be a phenomenal game week 2. We get our Super Bowl rematch early, and I like that the team that lost the Super Bowl is getting the home game. They get a better chance to get revenge. I actually have the Chiefs winning this game. That's my number 3.
Number 3, I have a Bears at Commanders rematch. It's in Washington again on Monday Night Football. The last time these two teams played last season was obviously that Hail Mary where the Commanders got lucky. Noah Brown gets that touchdown. We see Tyreek Stevenson just celebrating on the side. which was shown in the Chargers schedule release video, which was funny. It was one of the Minecraft ones. But I'm excited for this game. Two good offenses, and we'll see if the Bears can win this game and not lose on a Hail Mary this time.
Yeah, they should have better luck with Hail Marys now with the Pope.
Yeah, fair
But
enough.
number two, I have Lions at Eagles, Week 11, Sunday Night Football. Lions and Eagles have not played since the Lions have been at their full potential. The last time they played, the Lions were still a pretty bad team at that point, but both these teams, probably the two best teams in the NFC, are going to be going at it in Week 11. I don't think Ali McNeil will be back by then, unfortunately, but actually, maybe. It's mid-November. There's a decent chance he's back by then, but the only thing that scares me with this game is it's later in the season, so you don't know injury wise who's going to be available. There's a good chance that one of these teams could be at a huge advantage and one could be at a huge disadvantage. But regardless, I'm very excited to see how these two teams face off at full strength. We haven't been able to see it yet, and for that reason, I have them at number two, Sunday Night Football, Eagles at Chiefs. Or sorry, Lions and Eagles, sorry.
Number two, I have Commanders at Chiefs. That'll be week 8, Monday Night Football. Jaden Daniels versus Patrick Mahomes could be must-see TV. We've seen Jaden Daniels win a lot of close games last season. The Commanders were in a lot of them, and the Chiefs, obviously, with Mahomes, have been notorious for winning close games. We saw it all last season as well. So if this game is close at the end, it'll be interesting to see which quarterback can find a way to win, as both of them are great at it. So I think that's going to be a very fun game to watch. Two of the best quarterbacks. One's younger, one's more of the veteran, and I think it could be great TV.
I talked about how I don't like that the Cowboys are on the opener against the Eagles, but the benefit of that is we avoid the Cowboys playing on Sunday Night Football in Week 1, and we get an absolute banger with Ravens at Bills Week 1 Sunday Night Football. I don't know how this can't be the number one game. Both teams are going to be at full strength. You get to see them face off Week 1. It's the rematch from the playoffs last year where Mark Andrews dropped a couple passes and had a fumble and lost them the game. Mark Andrews gets an immediate chance at revenge here at Bills in Buffalo, Week 1, Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a phenomenal game.
Yeah, I actually have that game at number one
I
as
figured.
well. Ravens at Bills Sunday Night Football, that rematch. Obviously, that playoff game was great. We saw the drop from Mark Andrews with the Ravens to lose. A little bit of a team turnover, but I think it should be a great game. Like you said, both teams are going to be healthy, hopefully going into this game. And it could be it will be a great game to watch. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and I'm very, very excited for that game.
Okay, we can get after it now with our NBA playoff update. We will start in the East with the first series to end. Pacers Cavs. Pacers win, as you said earlier, in 5 games. They win 4-1. Cavs were down plenty of starters in their first 2 games. They go down 2-0. Those guys come back for game 3. They win easily in game 3 at home. And then the fatigue just got to them. They get blown out in Indy in game 4. And then game 5 essentially blown out in game 5 as well. I think the Cavs at one point had it fairly close in the fourth. Yeah, no, they did. They had it at 1 point game in the fourth at one point, but then the Pacers pulled away and they had it from there on out. Donovan Mitchell had a chance at the end of this game to hit 3 free throws, make it a 3 point game. He misses all three, goes down, and then hits a crazy three right after that. That would have tied up the game if he would have just not missed all 3 free throws. But he was really banged up. His ankle was fucked up. He went 8 for 25 in this game. He went 15 for 21 from the free throw line, 3 of those free throws being in crunch time at the end of that game, like I said, when he got fouled in the 3 pointer. Like you said, it's very disappointing for the Cavs. I do give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt with the just having 4 starters banged up is just really brutal. Garland was horrible in this game for the Cavs. Cavs weren't even really passing the ball well. They weren't moving it around very well. Garland led the team in assists with 3 assists, which is not what you want to see if you're trying to win a playoff game. You see Tyrese Halliburton has 8 and 4 turnovers for the Pacers, and then Garland 3 and 5 turnovers is just not a recipe for success. And this Pacers team is so fun, man. This team gets up and down the court. They run. They're very good offensively. They're so young. They have their veteran presence down there in Turner and Siakam, but they have Halliburton, Neesmith, Nemhard. All those guys are just absolute dogs. At this point, the Pacers are my pick to go to the finals. I think they do beat the Knicks, assuming it's the Knicks. We can't assume it because it's going to game 6, but with no Tatum, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, the Pacers are my pick to go to the finals. I'm super impressed with what they did in this series, regardless of the injuries. They are getting a little bit of a people are calling them injury merchants. after the first two series, beating a Dameless Bucks and then beating a Cavs team with four banged up starters. But regardless, they got it done. They've won 8 of their 10 playoff games in 2025, and they're making a second straight conference finals.
Yeah, the Cavs disappoint again. But I mean, in this series, they still had games that they should have won, even with all those injuries and banged up. I think that's
Agreed.
probably part of why I put them as the duds because they just couldn't find ways to win those games. They were up big in game two, and they were shooting very well. They had guys out, but they should have easily won that game. They were up. What was it was seven again, seven with like 40
Yeah,
seconds left,
it was
and
like
they
the
get
the Bucks game for the Pacers. Yeah.
And they get that Donovan Mitchell gets a turnover. They can't hit free throws. They give up rebounds on Pacers missed free throws twice in the last 40 seconds. One was a putback dunk. The other one was Tyrese Halliburton getting the rebound and going out and making the game-winning three. But they had games like that they should have won. Even game one, they had a lead for a little bit. If they win game two, it could be a completely different series, but they don't get that done, and the injuries did hurt them. But like I said, they had games to win. Tyrese Halliburton was great in this series, but he's not the only guy. This Pacers team is just so deep. They have so many different weapons. Pascal Siakam was fantastic in this series as well. He averaged 17 points. Miles Turner was great. Andrew Nemhard is uh, just a guy who shows up in the playoffs and dominates. Aaron Nesmith is just another guy who's been fantastic. Benedict Matherin's been good. They have so many guys that they can beat you with. Obi Toppin as well. Just a very, very deep team. They have Thomas Bryant hitting corner threes. He's been really good as well. And throughout these playoffs, all of those guys have stepped up in the playoffs. And then you go and look at the Cavs and guys who were great during the regular season just did not have it during the playoffs. Like you said, Darius Garland, he wasn't great. Max Strus, outside of sending out text that if you don't think we can come back, don't show up, and then going 0 for 5. Um, Ty Jerome wasn't great in the series, was great in that last game, and DeAndre Hunter as well, just didn't have it in this playoff series. So Indiana deserved to win, and they dominated, and now they're going to have a pretty significant rest advantage going into that conference finals.
Okay, we'll move on to the other series that is over here. Timberwolves win in 5 games over the Warriors. Of course, the story here is Steph Curry gets hurt in game one. The Warriors still win game one, and then they drop 4 straight with no Curry, who would have probably been back for game six if they had gotten there. But my biggest takeaway from this series, I was so impressed with the Timberwolves in the first series against the Lakers. I thought they played super, super well in that series. I was very impressed with them defensively, what they were able to do on a very good offensive Lakers team. And then we get into this series where they play a Curryless Warriors team, and yes, they won 4 straight games, but I was not fully impressed with how they performed in those 4 games where they won. They should have blown the doors off this Warriors team without Curry. I know they have Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was not playing well. This Warriors team without Curry isn't good. Like they're not a good team. I don't think they beat a single team in the West outside of the Grizzlies in a playoff series without Curry. I don't
I don't know if they'd beat the Grizzlies.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't know who they beat without Curry. The Grizzlies are a maybe, but I thought you were gonna say they do beat other teams, but no, they absolutely don't
No.
without Curry. And the Timberwolves, I mean, game three was a very close game. Game four was a very close game, and there were points in game five where it was very close. I know the Timberwolves ended up being up by 20 at one point in the third quarter, but there was a point in this game where it was close. I am I'm not confident in the Timberwolves going into this next series. I've been saying since like game three of this Timberwolves series that I think and then once of course Tatum got hurt that I've got Pacers versus the Nuggets and Thunder winner in the finals. I think that's what it's going to be at this point. Maybe the Knicks could win, but I just don't see the Timberwolves getting past the Nuggets and Thunder winner. I just don't think they're a good enough team offensively to do it. And we saw in this series they struggled at points against a Curryless Warriors team. And as confident as I was about the Wolves coming off of that Lakers series, I unfortunately feel different now after the after this Warriors series.
Yeah, I mean the Warriors really didn't have many offensive weapons to work with. They didn't score 100 points until game four. Um, Kuminga was solid in this series for him after Curry went down. When Curry was playing, we really didn't see Kuminga on the floor at all. But with him out, they needed an offensive weapon, and he was the guy to go to. Jimmy Butler, I mean, like you said, he was just did not have it this series. Only averaged 20 points on 30% shooting from three. Just all around, not what you would expect to see from Jimmy Butler. Only shot 43% from the field. Buddy Hield couldn't continue what he was doing a little bit in that Rocket series. He only shot 35% from the field. Did shoot a little bit better from three, Podziemski was terrible throughout this series up until game five. He really had nothing going for him. Only shot 30% from the field in general. He was poor. And then Draymond Green, he's not a guy on the offense who you're going to give a guy and go and score the ball. He's the captain of the defense, which their defense was still solid throughout this series. They held the Timberwolves to only 109 points per game, which is still okay.
Their
But
worst defender on the court was gone.
yeah, um, uh, but
At
it's
38 years old, he's not a great defender anymore. He's
who are you
not.
talking about? Are you talking about Curry
Curry.
or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he's not a great defender, but um, he makes up for it on the offensive side of the ball, I'd say.
Well, obviously, yes.
He there's only one player, two players, I guess, on the Warriors with a positive plus minus throughout the series, and one of them is Curry. Only played one game, and
Really.
then the other is Kevin Knox. So
Kevin Knox, the
I,
GOAT.
I didn't even know he was on the team. The
Yeah.
Warriors throughout this series played so many people that it was kind of impressive. We saw Santos come in for a long time, Pat Spencer, Quentin Post. They had multiple guys. Moses Moody didn't really play much, but in game five he played a lot. They just don't have enough offense to continue to win without Curry, and that's what we saw.
Yeah, we saw Steve Kerr ripping in the pods late in that game five, just absolutely ripping the kid who was actually decent in the series, to be honest. One of their slight bright spots offensively. He can actually kind of score. Everybody
I
else
mean,
is.
he just wasn't shooting well at all until game five. Game five is the only game he really shot the ball decent.
Well, I mean, at this point, it was kind of fine if you didn't shoot efficiently. Like Jimmy Butler should have shot an inefficient 30 points every game, but
Yeah,
I'd rather you go get me an inefficient 30 than an efficient 15 when you don't have Curry.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you got to
exactly.
find a way to put points on the board regardless.
And just being aggressive is important because you're Jimmy Butler. You're going to get some calls. At least try to get to the free throw
Yes,
line. And um, how many? He only averaged 7 free throws a game.
that's
I,
decent, but
it's
still,
decent. But you want more than that
yeah, that's
with
bad
Curry
with
out.
Jimmy. Yeah, yeah, it's
Can't average
unfortunate.
20 points.
Yeah, I mean, part of me was kind of rooting for the Warriors because that would have helped my anti-Curry agenda, but I guess it doesn't with them losing four straight.
Yeah, no,
Um,
definitely not.
we'll flash forward. We'll go back to the East then before we talk about the best series. Celtics, Knicks. Series is at 3-2. Celtics won last night in game five at home, but the story is Tatum with the Achilles. It's just devastating, an absolutely devastating injury. We've seen two superstars, him and Dame, have season-ending Achilles injuries in these playoffs so far. Tatum is a little bit younger. It's looking like his recovery is going to be 9 to 10 months. I don't expect Tatum or Dame to play next year. Maybe Tatum will play later in the playoffs next year, but I would most likely say that him and Dame are probably out for the entire year next year. It sucks, especially losing a whole year of your career in your 20s. It's just brutal for Tatum and the Celtics. And this is a Celtics team that's going to lose Drew Holiday this offseason. They're probably going to lose Porzingis as well this offseason. And now you're going to go into the next year without those two guys and without Tatum. That's three of your top 5 to 6-ish guys that are not going to be on your team next year. And you're going to have a Jaylen Brown led team with Derek White that's going to have to try to find a way to win games. So they're probably not going to be nearly as good next year due to that, unfortunately for the Celtics. But we'll see what they do with these Drew and Porzingis trades. We'll see how they move them, what they can get in return for them. At this point, I don't think it would be a bad idea to maybe stockpile some picks for those guys and just think more future than present. Especially, you don't know what Tatum's going to look like post Achilles, so you probably want to give yourself an insurance plan. I'm not saying I don't think he's going to still be good because he's young. I think he will still be good. I think he'll recover fine, but I think you want to give yourself an insurance plan and use guys like Drew and Porzingis who are still worth something and get draft picks out of them. With that being said, the Celtics aren't done yet this year. It is 3-2. They'd have to win three straight without their best player to win this series. They'd have to go win a game in MSG against the Knicks. But the Celtics are still a very, very deep team. They still have Porzingis. They still have Drew Holiday. They still have Jaylen Brown. They still have Derek White. They still have Peyton Pritchard. This team has a ton of studs. And the biggest reason why we loved Boston all year, Mike, is not because of Tatum and Brown. It's because of how deep this team is and how well coached they are with Missoula. And they still have all of that even without Tatum. So I still think the greater reason of why the Celtics have been so good can still be effective in this series. They of course have to win the next two games. I do think the Knicks are going to win in game six. I do think the Knicks close it out in 6 games, but The Celtics, I don't think are out of the are dead yet. I don't think the Knicks can start counting their chickens yet. And if the Knicks do lose game six, I kind of like Boston to win in game seven. I do, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be absolutely absurd. The last game, the first game without Tatum, we saw the um, Celtics have maybe their best game of the series so far. They looked very good. Jaylen Brown was great, honestly. Maybe his best game of the playoffs so far. 26 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists. He was very efficient passing the ball. Derek White was great as well. He had 34 points. Luke Cornett off the bench was huge for him. 10
He's a good
points. He had
player.
7 blocks. He is a good player. 7 blocks, 9 boards. And honestly, really the thing that's shocked me so far in the playoffs, and one reason I was so confident in the Celtics was because of how deep they were, like you said. But the the weird thing is, I don't know what's going on with Kristaps Porzingis. If it's like pneumonia stuff, I mean, there's people
Long
saying
COVID.
some crazy rumors on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen those.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard people talking about it. What is it?
I don't even know if I want to say it out loud
Really? It's
of
that
what
bad?
people are saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but he has been just really not good in the playoffs. I mean, he's been okay when on the court, but he hasn't been on the court. That's been the main issue. He was minus 12 in this game, only 1 point. I just did not play at all in the second half. They said he was available if 100% needed, but whatever's going on with Kristaps is very, very strange. Hopefully he's all right though and can get better. The Celtics had their best game of the series. Otherwise, it's been really the Jalen Brunson Knicks show. They've been playing just sticking with the Celtics in the first half, and then in the second half, this Knicks team dominates the game. Brunson takes over. Mikal Bridges defensively has made a bunch of stops on both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum late in games to win it for him. But yeah, really the biggest story has to be Jason Tatum going down. Prayers to Tatum. His is a I don't I'm not a doctor, so I have no idea, but his is a ruptured Achilles, where they said for Dame they never said ruptured, they only said torn Achilles. I don't know what the massive
I thought
difference
there
is.
were
I
synonyms.
I don't know because like a ruptured is like you can there's like
Here
different
we go.
grades for them. I was looking it up just because I was curious, but it's like you can tear it, but like a complete tear is known as a rupture. So like I feel like if
So
Damian Lillard
Dame
did
could be a
rupture
partial
it,
tear.
yeah, but like
Interesting.
that's still a torn Achilles.
Yeah, and his age makes up for it.
Yeah, but hopefully Tatum gets better. He was very hurt on the floor, which is just sad to
Yeah.
see. But I trust him to come back and still be a great player. I mean, I said it on I we talked about in the last pod all the guys who have never come back from an injury, a torn
Yeah.
Achilles, and he's still younger. He's got to just try to talk to Kevin Durant and see how he recovered from it.
Same doctor who did his surgery, did Katie's surgery, did Tiger Woods' surgery. So he got a good doctor. Tiger Woods' most recent surgery, the
Yeah.
one he
Okay.
just tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this is not great for your Tatum agenda.
No.
But like we talked about last
But
night off camera, if the Celtics come back and win, there's a way that you could still win this take
yeah,
without
I
seeming
can.
like a guy that was rooting for an injury. If the
Yeah,
Celtics come back and win.
Tatum haters can spin it. You still, any Tatum hater will pretty much say that they don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah, no, I
Specifically
agree.
a torn Achilles. You'd rather him go out losing badly
Yeah.
than going out like this.
And especially he was dominating in that game.
Yes, he was. That was probably his best game of the playoffs so far.
Yeah,
He was
he was
shooting
playing
very
really well.
well, but
Yeah,
you
unfortunate.
hate to see it.
Um, we'll finish off here with the last playoff series, Thunder Nuggets. The Thunder currently lead this series 3-2. The Thunder have blown some games in this series, and so have the Nuggets. Nuggets absolutely have no excuse for losing games four and five. They have none. They led by double digits in four, they led by double digits in five, and they still managed to lose both of these games despite leading by double digits in the third quarter in both of these games. The Nuggets were horrible offensively in game four. They had 8 points in the first quarter. They still ended up coming back, playing really well in the second and third quarters, and then blowing it in the fourth. And essentially the same thing, higher scoring game, but the same thing in game five. This is a Nuggets team that I picked them to win this series because I trust their ability to close out at the end of games much more than I trust the ability of a team like the Thunder, who has one great scorer and then a bunch of young players who you can't really trust. But Jalen Williams was really, really good at the end of that game in game five. He has not been great in the playoffs in his career so far, but he was great at the end of game five. And of course, Shea hit a big three. The Thunder were just hitting a ton of shots. As somebody who holds a Nuggets future at plus 3,000, I was heated after game five. I'm still mad about game five, but game six is tonight. Obviously, it's a must win for the Thunder or for the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are going to win this. My biggest worry about losing game five was that there's a 1 day break between five and six, and there's a 2 day break between six and seven. So I really like the Nuggets' chances to win in game seven off a 2 day break, them being an older team than the Thunder. The Thunder are going to have the advantage on smaller breaks between games. So them losing game five puts a lot of pressure on the Nuggets. The Thunder are not going to come out flat in game six. I really, really, really hope that the Nuggets can force a game seven because this series has been phenomenal. The first Nuggets series was phenomenal, and they have been kind of, I don't want to say carrying the playoffs because the NBA and NHL playoffs have both been really, really good this year. Whether you hate one of the leagues or hate them both, or you're just a football fan, you can't argue against it. Both of these playoffs have been really, really good so far. I really want to see a game seven here, and I want to see the Nuggets continue to produce great series over and over and over for us.
Yeah, we're seeing the Thunder really kind of mature right in front of our eyes. First game, close game, they just found a way to lose, and all season they've been the best team in the regular season, one of the best records. But really doing that, they didn't have to play too many close games. They were dominant without having to play close games. And now in the playoffs, you're playing against hard teams every game. The games are going to be close, and we're seeing them mature, get better, and win these close games. They've done it with the last two. We'll see if they can continue doing it as the series gets deeper and they have to finally close out the series, which is usually the hardest game to win. But Shea's been pretty good in this series, averaging 28 points per game in this series. Jalen Williams averaging 18. They've both been great. Nikola Jokic obviously is going to be very good. He always is. 30 points, hits a crazy shot. And when he hits that shot in game five, that three to tie the game,
Yeah.
you almost think the Nuggets are just going to find a way to win. They have Jokic, but the Thunder stayed calm and they found a way to win. So that was very, very impressive by them. For the Nuggets, they need Michael Porter Jr. really to step up. He has been horrendous in this series, only shooting 28% from the field on 7.2 points per game, only shooting 25% from three. He's a guy who takes a good amount of shots for him. And right now they are not falling. He's averaging 6 3-point attempts per game. He's going to have to start hitting some of those. Same thing with Westbrook. He's going to have to start hitting some of those shots. He's only shooting 20% from three so far in this series. He's got to figure that out. So we'll see what they can do. But hopefully this goes to a 7 game series because this has been the best game of this round. And seeing a game seven, and if this young Thunder team can close out a game seven, would be fun to watch.
Okay, that should do it then for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. We'll be back next week to continue to discuss the playoffs and any news that comes up in the sports world between now and
Oh,
then. Go ahead.
there is one thing we did not talk about. I
Mm.
guess we didn't talk about the headlines thing. Derek Carr retires from
Oh,
the
yes.
NFL.
Yes, that
Uh,
was
big
shocking.
news. Big news out of New Orleans. It's shocking, but at the same time, he has had a crazy career of injuries.
Yeah, that's
He's
true.
had them all over his body, so he can finally rest his body. And I know Saints fans are probably happier than him that he's retired. So
No, I
we'll
agree.
see what they do.
Tyler Shuck will be the quarterback probably, and there's a good chance that they're set up for Arch Manning.
Yeah,
Really good
I
chance.
mean, what would you give them as a record
One and
last night
16.
on your live stream? 1-16.
1 and 16, yeah.
They have kind of a 1-16 type roster. We'll
They
see how
do.
it goes.
Yeah, we will see. But yeah, I guess that'll be it then. For this episode. Hit all the links in the description for TikTok, Spotify, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.